I'd like to welcome all of you to attendance, and I'll call the April 13th meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We've been sitting here patiently waiting on the clock to ring 6 p.m. and it has finally done so. Our boardrooms, the last few meetings after this past year, have becoming more and more crowded, friendly faces out there, and we love to see you and love to have people in attendance in our meetings as we partake in the business of Macon County. So welcome. We do have some announcements. First and foremost on our list is to introduce our new county attorney, Mr. Eric Rodnow. Eric, welcome. I'm going to read a little bit about him that I've written down here just so we're all familiar. And after a very extensive process of looking for a replacement for Mr. Chester Jones, our past attorney, Eric impressed us all, and again, we're happy to have him here. Eric was raised in Cimarron, Kansas, near Dodge City. He graduated from the University of Kansas with a degree in history. He spent his next year in Greensboro, North Carolina, working for NCNB Bank. Eric then returned to Kansas to attend law school at Washburn University. Upon graduating from law school, Eric accepted a job with the law firm of Hare and Bridgers in Silva. Eric has been in that same office since he moved to Western North Carolina in 1995. He serves as the town attorney for Silva, has served there since 1998, December 1998. Eric and his firm have been working doing our tax collections for Macon County since February of 2014. He specializes in civil litigation, real estate, and obviously local government law. And Eric, rumor has it that you might be an average basketball player, but you're a pretty good boxer and a pretty good gardener.
I'll take that.
So welcome again. All right, update on the Neco annual conference. Mr. Manager.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to let the board know, the Neco annual conference is coming up. The dates are July 9th through the 12th. They're going to do a hybrid conference, be both in person and or virtual in Prince George's County, Maryland. Just would like to inform the board of that, and anyone interested, please contact me within the next couple of weeks as it will be pertinent to the registration process.
Sure. I'd recommend if any of you have not been to a Neco, I know Josh, you leave on the board, but you go to one of their conferences. They're very enlightening, good conversation as you meet commissioners all over the country and learn about how they deal with similar issues that we do. All right, Ms. Kathy, I think we have some special guests this evening.
So as you know, we have for about 18 months now focused so much on the COVID-19 response for Macon County, and a big part of that, starting in January, has been vaccinating our community, which has been wonderful. And we've been really fortunate to have some help from our National Guard. And I wanted to take this opportunity because as requests for vaccines kind of die down, we may, at the end of this month, it looks like we may not see them go back and be used in other places. So I wanted to introduce to you, these are the two team leads. We have two teams here. We have Sergeant First Class, I call him Bowman because that's what is always on there. He's Jason Bowman, and Shanquisha Leary, Sergeant Shanquisha Leary. So we have two teams here. There's about, is there 12 altogether? 12 National Guard. They, Bowman's team helps out with actually giving the vaccine, and Sergeant Leary's team helps out with the data entry piece, and we really couldn't have done this without them. They've played a major role, just fit in real well with our staff. Have just really enjoyed having them here, and it's been a real positive experience for us.
Good. Okay, thank you. Well, on behalf of Macon County, we'd like to give you several. Come on up. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sergeant, we appreciate all you've done. This represents not only from the commissioners, but from people in this community. We sincerely appreciate all you've done to help the citizens of Macon County.
This is awesome, thank you.
Thank y'all. I've seen you in there working, doing your business. Thank you.
Sergeant Leary.
Thank you.
Sergeant, we appreciate what you've done for the people of Macon County. That's handmade, freshly minted.
Thank you, Kathy. Mr. Manager, we'll talk about our budget presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The original budget presentation was scheduled for May the 11th. That would have been at our regular May meeting of the Board of Commissioners. And as we all know, as we've discussed at the budget kickoff, and when we authorized the compensation and classification study, we are running a tight timeline, have continued to run a tight timeline with that study, and it is going to be best if we can postpone the budget presentation. I would ask the board to consider the date of May 25th. That will get us ample time to get that classification and compensation study in and give our finance staff, as well as myself and the committee that we have established made up of county employees, to look through that study and get it incorporated into the budget. Additionally, that's going to give us more time to learn about the latest round of COVID funding that will be coming down from the federal government passing through the state. Give us time to find out a little bit more information about that as well prior to the budget presentation. So again, I would request that the board entertain calling a special meeting for May 25th. That will be Tuesday, May 25th, at whatever time that this board should desire, if they see that date to be fit.
Commissioner Young, is that good with you? Commissioner Hickman?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill? Commissioner Shields?
Regular time.
Regular time, 6 p.m.?
If that's the board's pleasure.
I think that
Now,
works.
we have our, let me ask you this, Mr. Manager. We have all the, from the different departments, will they be here at that time, or is that just a presentation?
That'll be the county manager's budget presentation.
That's all.
That's it.
Then you'll set up workshops.
Then we'll set
after
up
that.
work sessions at that time as well.
Okay.
So it's set for May 25th, 6 p.m., and I presume y'all will handle our advertising
Yes, sir.
prior to. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all right. If we'll all rise, we'll observe a moment of silence, and I want to ask Commissioner Shields to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no public hearings on our agenda for tonight, so we'll move into public comment period. We presently have 3 individuals signed up. If anybody would like to speak after these 3 individuals, we will certainly entertain that opportunity. First up, we have Mr. Ed Trask regarding the Nantahala Library. Mr. Trask, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Tate and fellow commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and speak on behalf of the Nantahala. The items, and I passed out copies of the information that I have here regarding support and cooperation from the Nantahala school and on behalf of the community club. I'm vice president of the Nantahala Community Club, as well as I'm on the county library board and the regional library board. Some of the programs that the community club does each year in cooperation with the school, we have an annual scholarship for graduating seniors. That is in cooperation with recommendations from the school personnel. We provide winter coats and shoes for the needy students, again recommended by the school staff. Snacks and drinks for the high schoolers on a daily basis, as well as the Wi-Fi club comes over from the school to the library. And we provide snacks and drinks for those as well. We provide meals for the athletes that are going to away games because they don't have time to get to their home and then get back and get to the games on time. We provide meals for students and parents for a Christmas program that the students, I think up through the second grade, comes over and puts on a program for us, and we provide meals for their parents and their family. One of the main reasons we support keeping the Nantahala Library and the Community Club at the school property. Most of the club volunteers for the crafts and the things that are done for fundraising are elderly people. They feel safe at the school location because of the number of people that are there, as well as the SRO, excuse me. Just his vehicle being on site. One of the volunteers is also a substitute teacher at the school. So bottom line to all of this is we, as the community club, which works very closely with the library, most of the community club staff and volunteers are library patrons or library employees. So we would like to recommend your consideration in retaining the library on the school property. If you have any questions?
Thank you, sir.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Trask.
Thank you.
All right, we have Sharon Crosby, Nantahala Library.
I am the branch supervisor for Nantahala Community Library, and I thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts with you on our relocation. I know there's been some concerns brought up about safety and security with a public building on school property, but the library has been on school property for 22 years, and there's never been a problem. There's never been any kind of security or safety problems. I know that the traffic is sometimes not ideal, but if we were located on the opposite side of the school, that would alleviate that problem. And it would also get us away from the classroom windows, which has been brought up as a problem. Another thing is that anybody can come into a public building and watch the kids on the school with intent to harm or something. And we have always been, and will continue to be, an extra set of eyes and ears for what goes on there. If somebody came into the library and was watching the kids, we'd be able to observe that and report it. There are advantages of being located on the school property. The teachers and the students are able to easily use our resources, including technology, books, study space programs, and training during school hours. The Macon County Library and Macon Early College are located closely together, and that works well for them. Even during the pandemic, students and teachers continue to come into our library every day that school is in session. Currently, there are students coming in to sign up for library cards because they're learning how to use the Fontana Regional Library online resources, and which includes NC Live. to do research and the things they need to do for their classes. The high school has a Wi-Fi club that meets in the library every day with their teacher sponsor. They come over every day between 2 and 3 o'clock. When the pandemic is over, we'll still be able to offer some of the programs that are now going on and some of the ones that were going on that we had to stop, which includes a weekly story time for the younger kids. We'll again offer craft and art activities. We help the lower grades build gingerbread houses because the teacher can't help each one. So we have volunteers come in and help them with that. And we have art classes for different grades that are taught by a community volunteer. The teachers and the staff, the teachers and the students that we've talked to at the school all tell us they want us to be there. I know that there's one teacher who has written you a letter today, and some of the kids said they were going to send you letters. I hope they have and that you've had a chance to read those and take them into consideration. And I'd like for you to consider what the students and the teachers will lose if we are relocated from school property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Bill Dyer. Welcome, Mr. Dyer.
It's good to see y'all. As chairman of the Macon County Public Library Board of Trustees, I've been asked to speak to you this evening. And first, I want to say, and I really mean this, and our board really means this, we want to express our thanks and appreciation to this Board of Commissioners for their determination and resolve to move forward on replacing the current Nantahala Library and Community Center. It's been heartwarming to the community, and when we've met with them, to know that things are moving forward, and that's kudos to y'all. So my main reason to be here tonight is to report to you what has transpired over the last month. On Thursday, March the 4th, Nantahala community members, along with representatives of the Macon County Schools, Board of Commissioners, and Library Board, met on the campus of Nantahala School. This meeting was to discuss the possibility of converting the school's existing industrial arts building into a new library and community center. A walking tour of the building followed the meeting. Shortly afterwards, each commissioner was mailed a letter describing the library board's perspective on the possible conversion of the industrial arts building. The library board felt, in all fairness, that we as a board should also spend time viewing the earlier proposed Walnut Creek Flats building and property. And we did this on Tuesday, April the 6th, which is about a week ago. Following the viewing, we traveled over to Nantahala School, stopped at the Industrial Arts Building to view it when we arrived. After viewing the building, we moved to the current library and community center to hold our regularly scheduled board meeting. Prior to the meeting, community members had been invited to join us and were waiting there when we arrived. After much discussion and interaction, both community members and library board members in attendance were in full agreement that converting the industrial arts building into the new library and community center was, from our perspective, the preferable alternative. So thank you for allowing me to speak. Do you have any questions about any of this? Anybody?
We didn't get any, or I didn't get any letters.
No letter came?
Huh?
No letter came
Did it
after?
come to- Did it come to the county address?
No, the mail's running real slow.
Okay, that could be, well, that was a week ago. I mean, no, it was more than a month ago. I take that back.
Have you looked in your box? Paul?
What box?
You have a box with your name on it.
They won't let me in the courthouse.
Well, did anybody get one?
I have not.
Okay,
You
well,
just mentioned, I think Sharon or Ed one mentioned, I didn't.
I apologize, because that was my understanding. If you didn't get one, we'll try to find out what happened. But our perspective is summarized here, you know, and basically, there's a few more details in the letter, but we wanted to follow up with you as quick as we could, and I have no idea what happened to the letter, but I apologize that that didn't happen.
I knew when they moved that post office, this would happen.
We'll blame it on that and COVID. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Anyone going once, going twice? All right, we're going to move on to additions to the agenda. Mr. Manager?
Other than if we are going to add to the appointments,
TDC appointment?
TDC
Yeah, I would like to do that.
appointment to the
Highlands TDC.
Highlands TDC,
Under appointments, we'll make it 13B.
and we will need to have a closed session for the purpose of potential property acquisition.
Okay. Anything else? Lori?
If I could add budget amendments 234 and 235 to the consent agenda, please. Those were on your monitors when you came in this evening.
Numbers 234 and number 235. Commissioners, y'all have those? Everybody? Okay. Changes? Mr. Attorney, anything? You good? All right. Commissioners? Oh, Paul, sorry. Yeah, you called me on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Go
briefly
ahead.
discussed it with Chairman
sorry,
Day today.
Paul.
Just to add brief discussion on the town square, Franklin Town Square,
Just put it as 11E.
old business,
New
11E.
new business, 11E.
Oh, new business, okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you. Sorry, Paul.
That's all right.
Anyone else? Good. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So please, Michelle.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bill. Second by Commissioner Young. All in favor? Aye. All right, reports and presentations. Macon County Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Who's here to present to us?
Roadblock.
Rose, welcome.
Our partners at DOT are not able to travel right now, so thought we would call them on the phone in case y'all have any really technical questions that they could answer.
Get you set up here. State still not open?
They were having travel restrictions before COVID ever hit, 'cause budget.
Get Michael.
Roger. Little Roger. Is he not answering? If he doesn't answer, that's.
I'm not touched it. I don't have good luck with this thing. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hey, this is Macon County giving you a call. We have Ms. Rose Bogus here with us, said that you were going to join us by phone.
Thank you. Yes, this is Roger Castillo from Transportation Planning Division.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Very good. So you have the copy of the plan in your packet, and this is the result of a great partnership that we've had with North Carolina DOT, Transportation Planning Division, Macon County, Town of Highlands, Town of Franklin, and the Southwestern Commission. We started on this about 2 years ago, and we had a great steering committee work on this plan, and were very active participants, showed up to a lot of meetings, poured over a lot of data. And so this is the result of that plan, and I will also let you know that this is a brand-new format for North Carolina DOT. This is the very first one in the state to be done with this new, more user-friendly format. If y'all have seen your previous comprehensive transportation plan, it's a very dense document with a whole lot of words, and it's a little hard for any average member of the public to pick it up and really find out what's in it. So this is put together with help of the DOT Communications Office to make it more eye-catching, kind of pull out the highlights and really help you see what's what's actually in it, and then all of the meat and all the data and the analysis is all stuck in the appendices, so you don't have to read through all that unless you want to dive into it. So we did have a lot of good public input too. Because of COVID, we weren't able to have in-person public workshops like we usually do, but we actually got more participation and more comments with the online surveys than we ever usually do get people to show up to in-person public workshops. So it actually worked out really well. And I will just kind of draw your attention to the project proposals that are in the end of Chapter 3. If you've had a chance, if anyone has questions on any of the other processes along the way, but the recommendations or the project proposals at the end are basically what the steering committee and the team decided were the kind of the top list of needs in Macon County. And this will set the stage for, in the future, trying to get projects funded. Nothing in this plan is guaranteed to be funded or built, but this is sort of our list of projects that have been vetted, that the public sees a need for, and that are feasible. There are a number of transportation issues in Macon County that we identified are a problem or are deficient, not up to standard, but to fix them would just be too drastic of an impact or too expensive or just not, because we have a lot of narrow, curvy, windy roads. You would essentially have to cut down a mountain to bring the road up to standard. And so one of the goals of the steering committee was to maintain the natural beauty and the rural character of Macon County. So there are times where you just can't achieve both of those. So we do have a list of projects that were considered, but were just deemed too great an impact and not feasible. So those are documented but not addressed. And so the main recommendations are listed here and also shown on the maps. This is a multimodal plan, so it includes highway recommendations as well as bicycle, pedestrian, and public transit recommendations. And those are shown on the overview maps and then insets for Franklin and Highlands.
Rose, do you mind just to read those out?
Sure.
The ones that are going to make it?
All of the highway ones, or all of them altogether?
Yeah, how many are there?
There's about 50.
I think the highway
Okay.
ones would be.
Okay, so the Georgia Road has already had part of that road funded, and so any projects that are already funded are not included in here since they're considered kind of done, even if they're not completely built yet. So the first recommendation is to continue Georgia Road, that boulevard on down to the state line, to make that, a lot of people consider that kind of the gateway to not only Macon County, but to North Carolina. It's their entryway to the whole state. So as that corridor develops, to improve that gateway feel and also the safety by getting rid of that. We really are trying to get away from the center turn lanes on these 5-lane highways. They end up, as the road develops, with a lot of crashes and problems. So they're trying to move away from those. The major intersection right up here at the Main Street and 23441, where the new hospital is going to go, that one is one that has issues with, of course, the increased development from the hospital, but also looking at regional mobility through just getting through the county, since these are our main four-lane roads. If they continue to get signals and traffic lights on those major corridors, then it's going to slow down travel time trying to get to hospitals, get to the airport, things like that. Then on continuing on towards Silva on that same, the U.S. highways are listed first. So again, on towards Silva on 23441, there is a short section there that has that center turn lane. That, again, that's just an overall goal, is to turn those back into medians so that they're safer for all those left turning crashes that we get. And then on the other end of the county, US 64 going up toward Wine and Stair, Chunky Gal, to get a climbing lane on that road for trucks, so that people can have the more reliable travel time and not get stuck behind slow vehicles going up that road. Kind of what happened on the Clay County side, where they built the climbing lane coming up Chunky Gal to mirror that on this side. Let's see. Then Highlands Road, this is also a lot. Some of these are slated for modernization, which basically means just bringing them up to modern standards. It's not really adding travel lanes, but adding shoulders, proper drainage, better driveway intersections and things like that. So Highlands Road from Rogers Road to Walnut Creek, let's see, and then I'm just going in the order these are, so it may not make sense geographically. I'm going to jump all the way over the other side of Highlands, leaving Highlands and headed toward the Jackson County line, modernizing that section of 64 where the trucks can't keep their tires up on the pavement and they're always falling off the shoulder and crumbling the asphalt. And that was another one. A lot of modernization projects. Let's see. 441 Business from Porter Street to Big Bear Lane in town. Trying to modernize that with traffic flow and better sidewalk and driveway improvements there for pedestrians in town. Highlands Road from town for basically Main Street out to the 4-lane. Again, as that develops and you've got that, it's not a 5-lane, but where you have that center turn lane and people cutting in and out, ends up leading to crash problems. So long-term thinking of replacing that center turn lane with a median to help manage those access points. Bryson City Road going north, another modernization project, and also improving that intersection where there's that Y intersection with Cowie Creek Road where there's really poor sight distance there. That one was highlighted. And NC 106 Dillard Road from the state line up to 64 in Highlands. Airport Road from Olive Hill Road to NC 28, and Buck Creek Road from 64 to Teague Estates Road, kind of a midway point in there where it's more feasible. Doing all of Buck Creek Road gets into that where you have a lot of impacts that might not be worth the improvements. So part of that one, and then Clark's Chapel Road, J Road, Old Murphy, Prentice Bridge Road, Rabbit Creek Road, Roller Mill Road, and then Wells Grove from Depot Street to Clark's Chapel. We had a lot of discussion about that one. So that's the highway ones, and some of these also
Let's not
include.
mention the bridges. I think we're going to replace 11 bridges over a span in a short span. I'm the RPO chairman representing this board, and the way it works, it has got a little simpler. A little. We get, we can advocate for certain projects, but we've got to have a point system. We won't get into them weeds.
Right.
Will we, Jack? No. But other counties, we have to sometimes combine our efforts to get a project done. And that's what we've done in the case of the work that's going on the Georgia Road right now. Without other counties in our district helping us get the points needed, and that was one of the most dangerous little sections of highway anywhere.
That's right.
We just got the crash reports back
Yes.
last meeting. So if you know of a place that needs, we tried to include everything if somebody approaches us from Highlands or wherever. And what's left out also the airport runway extension. That's on that same schedule, and it has been funded.
Right.
And I think it's scheduled for 2023. And there's a little section of money there, and Rose didn't touch on this, that was in the budget last year, but the state, in their wiseness, is that a word? They cut the money out, and it's high impact, low cost money. And we thought of several projects where that would be feasible for Macon County, one of them being the airport road that you heard Rose mention. It was bridge replacement and some other places around the county that for what you get for the money, we thought it was good, but that money is back in the budget. We hope it passes this time, and if so, it should give us an opportunity for more projects.
Yeah, it adds flexibility for some of those smaller projects that don't score well in the big prioritization system. So hopefully that'll go.
Just the cost from the fairgrounds now to Addington Bridge Road, that little project from the time it started until now has increased by $9 million. Just that section of road. So when it gets to those kind of monies, we do pretty good out west, but we have so many secondary roads. We still have well over 200 to 300 miles of gravel road in Macon County that people don't realize.
Right.
So we're certainly glad the state does the roads.
Aren't we though?
We're kicking to that.
Yes, they can keep them. Does anyone have any questions for myself or our transportation engineer on the phone about any specifics? These plans are
I
up.
don't want to get technical, but I do have a
Go ahead.
question.
Sure,
Talking about dividing highways,
yes.
I'm guessing this number 2 is the bottom of Kelly Mountain. Right there.
The one with, does it have a black circle?
No, I don't know.
Which one? Sorry.
Well, so.
Which,
It's different.
number
Yeah, I'm
2 is
looking
an
at the
intersection.
document.
Oh, you're in a.
Anyways, but I'm just
different
worried
packet.
about, large trucks are just a fatality in, Jackson County, coming
Yeah.
off the Kelly Mountain, and we're gonna put a turn lane with a divided highway at the foot of the mountain. Maybe certain places like that need a turn lane,
And you're talking about like where you can cut across the median? At
Yes,
certain-
well,
at certain-
so from what I understand, you're gonna divide the highway with a median.
Right, so you have certain points where you can turn left, but not just a free-for-all.
Exactly.
Essentially, yeah,
Okay.
right.
Anyways, I was just concerned about large vehicles coming off the mountain at a high rate of speed with a U-turn lane at the bottom of our mountain.
Yeah, those locations have to be designed really carefully so that they're at a good location with speed and sight distance and all that. And
I'm
it's
sure
all,
there's a lot of research goes into that,
right,
it's the first thing popped out in my mind.
And to follow up on Commissioner Young's is the volume of traffic. The volume that we're seeing, not only this county, but in the far west, is just, well, anybody looks to Georgia Road on any
Right.
day, it don't have to be Friday no more.
right.
So, the volume of traffic is a real concern as we go forward. And, we think we could build a 10-lane road, it'd still be full, we don't know. But the volume of traffic has increased, in Highlands especially. Highlands traffic up 64 from Franklin to Highlands, out of 64 to Cashers. And that's one road that we really worked on. If you don't travel that road often, like some of us do, it really needs some attention. So, but the volume as we go forward the next 10 years is going to be a real concern for all of us, and especially in Macon County.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
Thank you,
But
Rose.
we appreciate Rosie's work on the transportation plan, and people like Jack Morgan has worked hard on this.
That's right.
And a lot of folks.
And Tommy and Warren were on our steering committee as well.
That's right.
And these are typically updated around every 10 years or so. As conditions change and grow, we try to forecast as far into the future as we reasonably can based on what population and economic data we have. But we know that things change, as this past year taught us.
And we have real concerns, all of us in Macon County, we have real concerns about the new, go back to 2010, which Derek has had a big hand in that portion. And now we're getting we don't know how we're going to come out into 2020, but that means a whole lot to getting money for the roads. It's really what they hang their hat on. So we hope we get a good report and not have to appeal it 3 times and still lose.
Hope so.
We can do that too.
Let's tell them to get started.
All right, we have a resolution before us to adopt a comprehensive transportation plan for Macon County.
As members of the RPO, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the Macon County Comprehensive Transportation Plan as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Rose.
So we can hang up on Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Dyer, I understand you want to address us again? Come on up.
Mr. Chairman, here is, I'll pass down the copy of the letter.
Gentlemen, I don't know what happened about the mailing. I'll take full responsibility for you not getting it. I just don't know. But we've got you a copy now. So,
Quick.
thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
The post office was loud, help. You said something about some of the kids were going to ride us, or?
I did. There were some of the school students who came over and said they were going to send you emails. And one of the teachers said she did send you a letter. She sent me a copy of it. I don't know if it's email or in the mail, but I have it if you'd like a copy.
Did anybody get any emails?
She
sent Miss
Grant, you're talking about Miss
Grant, I got it today.
Yeah.
It's the only email I've received is from school board, Melissa, the school board representative.
Would you like a copy of her?
Sure, anything you got, Karen.
Here, I'll go make some copies, okay? Thank you. All right,
Okay.
community funding pool recommendations, Ms. Wallace. Welcome, Karen. Good to see you.
Glad to be here. And I have a handout for y'all.
So this is round two, I guess, after we
No,
funded it?
this is still round one.
Still round one?
After I did round one, I'm happy to say. We really appreciate that the board was able to restore the full funding for the community funding pool. So we had a total of 13 grant applications submitted as part of the community funding pool, which is open to nonprofit organizations in Macon County. There are a few organizations that serve multiple counties, but we do ask that they restrict their ask to the business that they do that impacts the citizens of Macon County. So we had the $75,000 that you made available. Our committee met and reviewed those applications, and we're pleased to make the following recommendations to you for 12 of the 13 applications that were submitted. One of the applications came from a new nonprofit organization that just did not have all of their documentation together. So we reached out to them and encouraged them to, for next year's submission, to contact us and work with us so that hopefully we can grant their requests next year. Happy to answer any questions. You'll see that there's organizations from around Macon County. There's some traditional organizations that frequently apply for the community funding pool grants, but there's a little bit of variation there of what they might be asking for, and there's a broad range of projects that the different groups are trying to achieve with the grant funding. And many of these organizations are able to leverage funding from other grants to maximize the dollars that they receive from Macon County. So these are very important funds for these organizations.
Thank you. Thank your committee for their work and their effort in going through these recommendations, so we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
It's very important. Do we need to, Mr. Manager, do we need to approve this?
Yes, sir.
We'll get a motion to approve the community funding pool recommendations. Or any questions?
Is that 13's all that applied, Karen?
That's correct.
13 organizations?
Yeah, and that's fairly common. I mean, I think we've had up to maybe 17 or 18. I think that there are a few organizations who chose not to apply this year because they've been able to get other funding from COVID relief, some of the CARES Act, those kinds of things. So some of them, I think, had alternative funding sources. We often see requests from the community care clinics, and I'm guessing that they may have been able to obtain different funding rather than this funding because of the impact to their organizations.
Yeah.
We get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, we're very fortunate to have the community funding pool and the folks who work very hard in deciding who gets what out of this. It's a big help to this board and to this county. And if you'll notice what all these things have in common, they're all to serve the people of Macon County. So with that, I'd proudly make a motion that we we accept the recommendation of the Community Fund and Pool Committee and dispense the money as presented.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Bill. Second by Commissioner Shields. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, Medicaid transformation update. Hugh Johnson, welcome to you.
Okay, y'all got it. So with respect, or with your permission, Mr. Chair, can I do introductions and a
Absolutely,
word of
yeah.
thanks, and then tell a quick story about Ronnie Beal outside of school? So
Okay.
I'm Hugh Johnson, Senior Government Affairs Manager with WellCare of North Carolina. We're one of the statewide Medicaid transformation PHPs, or prepaid health plans.
My name is Jessica Beach, and I'm our travel programs manager, and I also lead our outreach efforts across western North Carolina with WellCare.
And you just, well, not just, you moved here.
Well, it's been almost 2 years now. I feel like the last year doesn't really count. I'm originally from Shelby County, but I grew up out in Arizona, and then when I had my family, I decided where better, aside from Macon County, right? But my whole family lives in Catawba County, so we had to go there.
All right.
You can find it on a map now.
I can, I'll tell a story of that. I want to say a quick thanks to this board and to Kim Angel for the work on our public transit agreement as part of Medicaid transformation and NEMT with one column. She's been an amazing leader on that issue, and we really enjoy working with her. The quick story, before, I think everyone in this room should know this, but before I joined WellCare 2 years ago, I worked for almost 5 years for the County Commissioners Association. And my first ever meeting presenting to commissioners about what was happening in Raleigh, in government affairs and lobbying and whatnot, was at Western Carolina University at a district meeting. And somebody at the association said, so, our president this year is Ronnie Beal, and he's going to be there. And just a word to the wise, he's real sensitive about where Macon County is on a map. So make sure you can point out where Macon County is on a map. And so, sure enough, Ronnie Beal said, Hugh, glad to have you working for us. I appreciate you being here. And I said, I'm really glad to be working with you, sir, and for you in Raleigh. And, he said, can you tell me where Macon County is? I said, yes, sir. My wife went to Western Carolina University. I thought maybe that would give me a little bit of kudos. And I said, Macon is just near Cullowhee there. And he said, no, you're wrong. Macon County's in Tennessee.
Couldn't let Hugh get ahead of it.
And then he
was a great help to the County Commissioner Association. He's doing a great job where he's at now. And he's missed at the association.
Thank you for saying that.
Raleigh. And he's done a great job here, and we look forward to working with him.
I'll turn it over to Jessica in a sec, but after he said that, he looked me right in the eye and he said, please, when you're back in Raleigh, working at the legislature, do not forget us out here. And I try to take that from that first day at the association to every day at WellCare. And I try to instill that into my team, on our public affairs team, about how we approach, especially something as important as transformation. So with that, I'll let my colleague Jessica take a couple slides, and then I'll jump in.
All right, she was gonna let me take the easy stuff.
Yeah, why don't
All right, well, thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to come and present with you today. Like I said, I'm with our public affairs team. I handle all of our tribal programs work across Medicaid and then everything across Region 1, Western North Carolina. Want to talk a little bit about how we do our work at WellCare of North Carolina. We keep our members really front and center in the work that we do. They're a reason for being an organization. So we keep our mission, vision, and values really at the center of our work and always focused on our members. So we strive to be the leader in government-funded healthcare. We've only ever worked in the space of government-funded healthcare with very vulnerable populations. We've only ever done work in Medicare and Medicaid. We've never had any commercial lines of business, and we think that really uniquely positions us to do right by our members across the state and in really rural areas. We can go on to the next one. It's very important for us to have a local presence. We have an office in every region across the state, but more than that, we want to be present in community because we know that community can tell us what their health needs are and help us find a way to be supportive and find what our lane is. So we really don't try and take action without having that community voice and that community input. As an example, some of the things that we've worked on here locally in Macon County, we have a really great partnership with Macon Program for Progress. We sponsored the Christmas Angels program last year. I've trained all of the parents as teachers, home visitors on what Medicaid transformation is, how to respond to questions that they get from families. So we've done a lot of like really intentional work around that. We're planning to do some of the back to school activities there. I'm proud to say that someone from WellCare of North Carolina has been at every single manna food distribution since June of last year. So, and that's just, we've not set up a table or done anything. We've really just gone there to like be a part of passing out food boxes and doing what we can to give that to the communities that we serve. So that's a little bit about how we try to have that local presence through our work. This is just a slide that kind of shows how we approach that integrated care management and member experience. So we know that our members are touched by all of these different pieces of Medicaid when they're on a plan, and we want to make it a seamless process. So we really try to wrap around those services, or wrap services around our members so that they know there's one person that they can talk to for all of these things.
So I'll jump in and talk about what transformation is at a high level, and what to expect over the next couple of months as we get to go live, and then beyond. So just kind of quickly, currently under Medicaid you have behavioral health. We actually kind of have managed care already in North Carolina. Behavioral health is managed by the LMEMCOs, split into each region. You all have VIA out here, as you know. And the legislature, over the course of about 3 years, passed a series of pieces of legislation to move all of Medicaid into this managed care model. So right now, you have sort of a bifurcated system where physical health is fee-for-service. You go to the doctor, they bill the state pays the bill, so on and so forth. Under this new program, that's fine. The similar to kind of existing insurance, we will be managing that behavioral health and physical health care in coordination for those people who enroll in our plan, among other plans. And right now we are in the middle of open enrollment for Medicaid. And so beginning, it was actually March 1st, they had a soft enrollment where people could find their way online and pick a plan. And then statewide open enrollment started March 15th. That will run through May 14th. During that time, members can call the enrollment broker who will help them, who the state contracted with to help navigate this change, to answer questions about each plan, kind of what the subtle differences are, and help them make a decision. The differences really, we are all required to provide the same number of services. There's no service change as part of Medicaid transformation. The federal government wouldn't allow for that to happen. There are differences in our plans in terms of value-added benefits we offer, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And then occasionally in the network, in terms of who's in network with each plan, as you may see as we get into it. Leave it right there. So after May 14th, the state goes into auto assignment, whereby members who have not picked a plan are auto assigned a plan based on a number of factors, including their family dynamic. They want to try to keep families together on the same plan if possible. Their existing provider network, their primary care provider, to make sure they're in network with one or more of the plans. And then sort of mid-May after that, we get information from the state about who is in our plan, both auto-assigned and enrolled, and then we start getting information out to beneficiaries about, okay, welcome to WellCare, or if you're one of the other plans, welcome to Healthy Blue or United, and so on and so forth. That will include information about things like how to schedule an NEMT trip under this new program. Who do you call for questions about this or that or the other? And we have a dedicated we have a dedicated customer service line for that. We have a dedicated line through our one-call vendor for NEMT, one call to help with scheduling those kinds of things. June 1st is the first time members can start scheduling trips for NEMT for post-July 1st. So July 1st, this program launches. So just to stick with NEMT, this is hard to say, all NEMT trips for beneficiaries who are in managed care post-July 1st will be scheduled by one call, in our case, or mode of care if you're in one of the other plans. That will begin June 1st. So June 1st, you would call the one-call hotline to schedule a trip for July 1st or 2nd or 3rd or 4th if you're enrolled with WellCare. And that's And that kind of information will be getting out there, and we're certainly printing out stuff to hand out to DSSs as well. So July 1st, the program launches. You go to your doctor, they bill WellCare instead of the state and get paid that way. When it comes to the beneficiary's choice, whether they've chosen or been auto-assigned a plan, it doesn't end there. Beneficiaries can switch plans without cause, without giving any reason, up to September 30th, 60 days after enrollment. And so the idea there is that if a beneficiary says, I don't really like the way this is, I want to switch from WellCare to another plan or another plan to WellCare, they can do that. The whole idea is that the beneficiary, the member, has as much choice as possible to make sure that they select the right plan for them and their families. And I think that's something that maybe we haven't talked about enough over the years as Medicaid transformation has come about, is the dignity of choice that members have now that the rest of us get to have in picking our plan and picking, the kinds of coverage we may want or the kind of network we may want. You now have that same coverage. You're going to get a ID card, a health care card, just like the rest of us have. It'll say WellCare. It'll have information about who to call and when to call for what thing. And you present it just like the rest of us do at the doctor. On top of that, when you have this choice, you start to learn a little more about your benefits and how to use them more appropriately, or how to use them effectively. And I'll jump a little bit ahead here to talk about this. There are subtle differences or differences among the different plans in terms of value-added benefits. This is a list of some of WellCare's value-added benefits. You put this slide together, is this all of them?
It's not all of them. These are the ones that we've found that have just been resonating really well with the communities when we're connecting with them. We have close to 50 value-added benefits overall. There's some top ones that are very similar plan to plan, but these are some of the ones that I think stand out a little bit for us.
And one that I highlighted is not technically a value-added benefit, but it is a pilot program we are funding for certain members, is a community paramedicine program. We are building out a network of community paramedicine providers using county EMS for a certain set of members who would enroll with us. And the idea, of course, is that that's a better way of getting care and interdicting before they end up going to the ER, letting something get worse. And going back to my time with the County Commissioners Association, we pushed for years and years and years for resources for that kind of program. And the idea here under managed care is that as a company, we are funding this just to show that it can work and can actually help people get the right care in their home, hopefully, as opposed to having to go to the ER or somewhere else. So that's just one of the, and these are all some of the examples of what we focus on when it comes to additional benefits, many of which kind of go back to the idea of total person care and social determinants of health, something that we're all talking a lot more about now. How do we focus on those things that get people healthier that we don't normally talk about? Things like access to food, access to housing, stability, that sort of thing, and transportation access. To that point, one of our value-added benefits is NEMT for NC Health Choice children, which is not a standard benefit currently. The idea there is that if we can focus on more than just what's going on in that moment that brought you into the office, we can focus on your total person and get you healthier, help you over time thrive, help your family thrive, and of course save the system money because we're not waiting for something to get worse and then going into the ER or something else. Let me back up and end with, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add a couple of things along with our AEMT. I think our team's done a really great job. We have a very robust network across Western North Carolina. So essentially any provider a family is currently accessing is in WellCare North Carolina's network. So that's going to be, we think, a very seamless transition when it comes to picking a plan and having that dignity of choice that he was talking about. Folks, I don't think will have to feel like they don't have options or they have to switch their doctor, because we've really placed an intentional focus on making sure those PCP providers or those pending care providers are in our network. And then also with our value-added benefits, some of them were able to offer transportation too. So like WIC appointments, we offer transportation to and from WIC appointments for young moms or anyone who's getting WIC benefits. And I think that's a really nice enhanced benefit that we have in our plan. And then just one more piece about the local presence. Well, like I said earlier, we'll have offices in every region, but we're also, our office in Region 1 is going to be in Asheville, which is very far away from Macon County. But one of the things that we do is we bring our welcome room environment to rural areas or where we have more members at. So we'll come and do like a week-long pop-up of our welcome room here in Macon County, so folks can come and get a new ID card, meet with a care manager. Really anything you could do in our welcome room, we bring that here for a week. You know, we try to do I think we try to do one of those every quarter. So that's something that we're committed to doing as well.
The welcome room is something I know we've all talked about here before in my old job, is the access to broadband, for instance. I know in our welcome rooms, we'll have access to a computer for someone to go, be able to log on and either apply for jobs or classes or that sort of thing. In addition to getting questions answered about your benefits and regular events for things like new mothers or pregnant women. Do you want to talk briefly about, is it okay if she talks briefly about tribal option, since that's your?
Yeah, sure. So the tribal option is also going to launch on July 1st. And so what I do in my role around our tribal programs is there are a lot of special exceptions to Medicaid for members of federally recognized tribes, how they pick their providers, how we pay those providers, whether they're in or outside of our network. So we've been working really hard to stand up our system so that any member who accesses or chooses WellCare will have like no interruption in terms of accessing their providers. So we worked really closely with the tribe, with the hospital over there to make sure that will all be seamless for any member in Western North Carolina, including our tribal members.
Hugh, let me ask you a question. You know, the problem that, I've been fortunate to work on this Medicaid transformation for 6 years on the statewide committee, and the problem we kept seeing and the problem that people was going to have is navigating this system. All these programs are great, but if they can't navigate the system, and I dare anybody in this room can do that, besides you. So are there anything built in to help the folks? The Medicare and Medicaid money that we receive in Macon County is much more in our budget. It is one thing, our population is getting a little older, but what do you have built into the WellCare system that will help people navigate and say, oh yeah, we can, because it's better than it was, but it's still complicated. I mean, can you speak to that?
So I can talk about the WellCare perspective. Jessica, feel free to jump in, and then I can bring it kind of statewide to talk about what some of the things the state has done. In particular, we had open enrollment and then the pause, and then we're back in open enrollment again. And the state has added some additional resources for beneficiaries. So from WellCare's perspective, Jessica talks about the welcome rooms. We also have staff in each region whose job it is to work directly with beneficiaries or their support organizations to help them understand this change, to help answer questions before and after transformation. Jessica, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like when I mentioned, when I first introduced myself, we did some trainings with Macon Program for Progress. That's a great example of doing some of the work that you were asking about, Mr. Beal. We do what's called kind of like a trusted voices training. So who is it that our beneficiaries are probably going to ask questions? You get a letter in the mail, who are you going to? You're not going to go to the girl dressed in orange at a health fair, probably. So we try to do work to really scaffold those support organizations like home visitors, like child care providers, like workforce development, just any organization in the community that touches a Medicaid beneficiary. We try to reach out to them and say, here's what's happening around Medicaid. We know you're going to hear about this, and here's how you can best engage with those questions. So right now, what that really looks like is what Hugh's doing now, giving that high-level overview of what Medicaid transformation is, and then saying, when you get the question, we send them to the enrollment broker, and here's that number, here's that website, so that they feel like, one, they have a contact when they have a more complex question that they need help answering, and two, they know exactly where to send those folks to, and it's someone that that beneficiary already trusts that's leading them to the right person.
Would it be safe to say that person here is
That is me for Region 1, so.
That's the WellCare perspective. The state has executed a contract with what they're calling a member ombudsman. And it's PISGA Legal Services and the North Carolina Legal Aid. And their job is to help beneficiaries, and I've got some screenshots from the state's website up there to help beneficiaries navigate things, particularly post go live. And I think, that's something that wasn't in place before the first, before we got approached the first go live and the pause. And I think what they're supposed to be doing is really unique and going to be really helpful to members as they navigate this change move forward. In fact, tomorrow there is a webinar that they have set up to kind of kick things off for folks, and so I know I'll be listening to that.
And we're partnering with Western North Carolina nonprofits to do a webinar on Medicaid transformation for those organizations that touch Medicaid beneficiaries, and that will be in conjunction with both the ombudsman, all of the PHPs, and the enrollment broker. And I want to say that's May 6th, but I can get that information to you and have him send it to y'all.
And I think lastly there, you mentioned and with a lot of this outreach, the PHPs are working together to make sure that we're providing a simple, sort of relatively uniform message to members, recognizing that that's sometimes the easiest way for, especially with COVID, for people to come together to learn. So.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
See y'all later.
I'll make sure to eat some dinner and give y'all some sales.
In other words, Patrick, it's more work for you.
We're hoping the enrollment group is going to help us with that.
We hope so.
You were just glad you ended up in the right state.
Thank y'all so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Good to see you.
Kim, hold on a second. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Mr. Chairman, I would be remiss if I did not say that Kim found out today that she is now the president-elect of the North Carolina Public Transportation Association. So, that's a big deal.
Good job.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thanks for everything, Kim. Thanks for all you do.
All right, moving on to old business. Appropriation of funding for the purchase of the Macon County Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association co-op property.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to bring the board up to speed here, this matter has been going on for a number of years. Chester here in his final notes that he provided to me on October 13th, I'll kind of just run down a timeline for the board. So the final notes that Chester and I reviewed on October 13th, Chester noted here that the county has agreed orally and in principle to purchase the property from the Macon County Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association for $87,500. So in December of 2020, that was in December of 2020, the minutes will reflect that we authorized our then interim county attorney, Kim Carpenter, to draw up an offer to purchase. In January 12th, we had discussed in closed session to proceed with the offer to purchase at $87,500. And we noted also at that time that there was taxes that are owed on the property that in the negotiation process, the co-op indicated that they would pay at closing. On February 9th, we came back to the board, notified the board that we had submitted the offer for $87,500, and we had submitted to them the signed offer to purchase, but we had a signed offer to purchase at that time, but we were still awaiting review of the deed by the co-op's attorney. On March 9th, 2021, we again notified the board in closed session that the signed offer to purchase had been submitted. We had still not heard anything back from the co-op at that time. We were waiting for the co-op to review the deed still. And at that time, we discussed that we would have to come into open session to appropriate the funding once the deed review had been completed. And as of this date, we also had an email here on March 9th from Kim just reiterating that she had not yet heard back from the co-op attorney, Mr. Jeff Gillette, on the deed review. On March 17th, Kim had received the requested changes to the deeds back from Jeff Gillette and signer authority as she had requested. So I spoke with Kim today. Once this funding for this property is appropriated at $87,500, we're able to set up a closing as soon as that is done. We will be taking a special warranty deed, and it was one of Chester's comments as well that we would need to be sure that we had a company that would insure title. We have confirmation with the title insurance company that they will issue title insurance on this property, and we'll have that in place at closing. So with that being done, with that timeline being given, if you'll recall, we had an appraisal done on this property in January 30th of 2020. The total value at that time with the land and building value was $223,600. Again, we have a signed offer by both parties, and at this time, the only action needed by the board would be to appropriate the funding necessary to purchase, and that's $87,500.
Dear, I'm happy to hopefully see this come to fruition. It's been on all 10 years I've been here. It's been on the
Mr. Chairman,
burner.
you know, this has been, it's a convoluted agreement way back before any of us were involved between the co-op and the county that took a long time to unwind, but, and the reason that the county is interested in this property is for two reasons. Number one, we already have property there that this adjoins, and number two, we don't have nothing to offer in the way of property for anybody that wants to expand. I mean, if it comes under EDC, but it gives us a little over 8 acres of land, almost 9 acres out there total, and of course the price is ridiculously low, and it also it gives the county some leeway with some property. If Tommy Jenkins finds somebody wants to come to Franklin, we have nothing to offer as far as I know, Tommy, as far as property, and we have that, you know, we have some agreements ready to go if we own the property. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to see we're going to get this wound up, hopefully, and that we'll take deed to this property and make really good use of it in the future. So with that, I make a motion we appropriate the $87,500 and have the county manager set up a closing.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bill.
And that money is to come from the general fund?
Fund balance, yeah.
Fund
General
balance.
fund balance.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Shields. Any discussion?
Anybody else?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this thing's going on forever and ever. At least we're down to 87,000 from 300-something thousand when I first came on the board. All along as we discussed this, and I did in general consensus to proceed with the contract. But all along I've had questions related to the wording of the original deeding this property from the county to the Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, and then we finally got Chester to give us a legal opinion about how the funds were to be dispersed out of this transaction, and we're not we're not following those items in paying $87,000, a number that we just came up with. That doesn't correlate with anything in the original deed or Chester's opinion. Now that we have a new attorney, I'd like his opinion on it, and I don't expect that tonight, and I know we're not going to postpone this, but until, it's pretty clear cut in this deed how this sale of this property is to be handled. And we've not handled it that way, and I don't remember us specifically voting to change how it was to be handled. Now, I could be wrong because it's been going on so long that I don't remember the details very well on it, but my opinion is, we're not addressing the issues in the original deed from the taxpayers of Macon County to the association. So until I've got a better understanding in my mind, even though I've given a general consensus on this thing, I just can't, I feel hesitant to support the sale of this thing, or the purchase of it.
Okay.
But I would like to stand a little bit. Mr. Bill, I mean, just throwing it out there, but would it be better to maybe sell this property to maybe somebody in the private sector to put in a restaurant or to put something
We
in there?
went down that road too.
You know
We've
what I
been
mean?
down, we've tried to sell it to private sector. The co-op tried to sell it, but the convoluted agreement we have with the county, it appears that only the county's the only one could ever buy this property. We had it sold once before,
I
the
think
co-op.
he's saying after the fact.
So
After the fact,
so
yeah.
after we make this title whole and we take all these, is it 30 different families in some county right away, once we make this property whole, it's a really desirable location, and I've had many members of the public express significant interest. And I think it'd be kind of cool, maybe we could, you know, with its historical importance, and it could be a cool asset that, I hate that the county gets to buy it and sit on it, and it's sit out there for 6, 8, 10, 15 years. You know, so I just don't want to buy it with the intent that we're gonna.
I think we'll have to see what the future holds for the property, and we might have somebody can have several employees, might be interested in that soon.
Based upon what you're saying, Josh, I can't imagine the county would turn down a legitimate offer to help, especially to help support one of our local businesses.
If we get a clear deed to it, then he can do
If we get a
that.
clear deed.
Until that's done, we can't do nothing.
But I agree with your synopsis.
I do too, Josh,
I just want to see it put out there, maybe.
because there's not many tracks like that, right that close to
Well,
town.
and it's really cool, I mean, just the structure, I mean, there's,
Well, yeah, that old prison has a lot of,
it's really kind of cool.
But it's dilapidated, though.
yeah.
It's obsolete.
Get haunted
Is
house.
it worthwhile, or is it appropriate to ask if legal counsel speak to this or not?
Well, I work for you, so,
Okay, it's appropriate.
you all tell me what to do.
You briefly read the deed. Is there any conflicts? I mean, if, it's pretty clear cut to me, it's not convoluted to me, but I'm not an attorney. The county does not have to purchase this property.
I would agree that the county does not have to purchase the property. I did just review this just before the meeting as far as the deed goes. I was not involved in anything prior to this other than, Mr. Rowland did take me by, on our grand tour, and we went by and visited it and went inside, and, a lot of history you could feel in the walls within it, but that's not legal. So, as far as that goes, I did just review the deed, before the meeting. Seems to be somewhat difficult the question is the appraisal value of the real property versus the improvements, and how do you arrive at a value on improvements to something that has most likely got to be torn down unless you're going to spend an astronomical figure to preserve what's there. So I think it becomes more of an appraisal question as far as the value that would end up being improvement versus real value, if that makes sense. Based upon what that says, where you only get $15,000 for the dirt, but then they get, and anything that's valued on the dirt then, that's above that is considered improvement, which the co-op would receive. So I think it becomes more of an accounting and appraisal type question as to how you arrive at a value.
And there's no improvement, I mean, there's improvements on it, but there's, to me, liabilities as opposed to assets. There's no building there that's usable. There's no sewer and
I
water.
totally disagree with that assumption. The block building that's there now that was built relatively recently, I mean, in the last 15, 20 years, does it need a little work? Yes, but is it a sound, sturdy building? Yes, it is. It's a block building. Was used for many, many years, and needs very little work to make it at least, I mean, that building today, that square footage would be several $100,000 to build. So forget the old prison part and the part we had, the Macon County Baptist men, we went in there and renovated that for the Macon County Baptist men during the flood. But yeah, it's definitely got some value in the building, in the first building. I think that's reflected in the last appraisal we got.
The breakdown on the appraisal was, the land value at 7 acres was $151,900, and the building value was $71,700.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to make it any more difficult, but I just want to make it clear that I'm in favor of putting this together, making this title whole, as discussed in closed session, but I'm not in favor of holding this property potentially indefinitely. If there's some way we can kind of make this agreement to where, you know, it's contingent upon selling or offering it to the public, then I'm in support, but as presented, is that a? Mr.
I
Tate,
don't
how
think
can
we
I-
decided that, know what we're gonna do with it, Josh, but I mean, if you wanna, I don't know, I haven't thought about it in that light, so.
Okay. I
But
just don't want to buy
agree
the
with
whole
you, I don't,
property.
I mean,
I want to see it used and I want to see it offered to the public.
it sounds like the consensus is on this board is to move forward with it, it's just what we do with it after, and maybe we hash that out after we make the title whole. We've been dealing with this primarily behind closed doors since I've been a commissioner, and I believe it started before I even got here. I've studied, and I have considered, and I have pondered so many different angles. I feel like we've looked at angles of the co-op trying to sell it. They brought offers to us, and it's just been a back and forth. Again, 10 years. I think it's finally, I'm just tickled that we've come to a consensus to maybe see this come to fruition and move forward. I think it's good for them. I think it's good for Macon County, and no matter what we do with it. I think it's good. But Josh, I'm in full support that if we take a good offer on this property, we move it out. If Tommy or somebody presents us something good, and maybe we put that on for about 2 months from now after we get this closed, discussion of what exactly we do. So,
Is there a way to kind of make an amendment, maybe list for a period of time with maybe a minimum bid, maybe some kind of auction? Can we auction it off just 4 times?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we can do that. I mean, there's some things in the works now that can't be talked about in public, but I don't think we want to restrict and handcuff us to what we do with this bill in the future. We'll leave it at that. I think it's too early in the game. We got to buy the property first and get a clear title to it. So I think it's way too early in the process. And you can talk to Mr. Jenkins and some folks later. We don't need to handcuff ourselves at this point, I don't think.
I agree. I don't want to handcuff us either one way or the other. I'm completely open for, if Mr. Jenkins has something, I'm completely open if somebody else wants to do that. I'm just happy to see this deal come to fruition. I think it's the best deal for Macon County, and I think the Macon County taxpayers will come whole on this very well. So.
I do too, very well.
All right. Sorry.
No, just to make it clear, like,
Now
I'm in support of making it whole, but I'm not in support of holding it, so as I vote this
I don't think none
down.
of us want to hold
That's
it.
why, you know what I mean?
I don't think none of us want to hold it long.
But I just don't want to hold this property, and that's why, I just want to make that clear.
Sure, I understand. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So 3-2, Mr. Decker. You want me to read the names? You get them? Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Update on cost of locker room project at Macon Middle School. Planning, Permitting, and Development Director, Mr. Morgan.
As Jack's coming up, just to, going back to the special meeting on February 26th, the board had requested when we approved to move forward with the middle school renovations, the board had requested me to look at the numbers for the locker room project that we had previously discussed. Jack, working with local architect, Mr. Tom Ritter, who was the one that drew the plans for the locker room facility that we had previously discussed, has got an update with those numbers as requested by the board.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Welcome, Jack.
Just to refresh your memory,
I'll get those, Jack.
here's
Excuse one.
yeah. Anyway, if y'all remember, this started way back in 19. The concept of doing something about Macon Middle School, and during that process, this auxiliary locker facility came up then in 19. And in January of 20, we came up with an estimate for that. It's just to remind you, it's 7,400 square foot locker facility on the south side of Macon Middle School. And January 2020, the estimated cost was $1.2 million. And that was before COVID and before a lot of things have happened. But as of April of 2021, we estimate the cost to be 1.4. Now, Mr. Ritter, as Derek said, Mr. Ritter and I came up with this estimate. The plans are completed and are ready to bid whenever you want to go to bid, if you want to go to bid. An estimated time of construction is approximately 6 months.
Did you say 1.4 million, Jack?
1.4, yes.
So that was the whole project, this was not included in the first one.
No, this is not part of the reno.
It was not.
So that,
Jack, did y'all have time to talk to the contractor who's gonna be doing the renovations?
They're very interested in this project as well.
But it's still gotta go through the bid process, don't it?
You gotta bid.
Yeah, this is just plans and what you're going to
But
do.
we got the plans, everything's spec'd and everything's ready to go?
Ready to
for the
go.
bid?
We let it to bid as soon as Tom gets the advertisements out.
So we're potentially gonna have two different crews if we move forward with this.
Well,
Or that
it's,
firm may bid on it as well, I guess. So,
Firm A, I'm pretty sure will bid on it.
okay.
It just makes sense to them.
Oh, it would be the perfect time for them, and they actually might give us a better cost than our estimate.
But now, and two, with that, when we were discussing it with the renovation project, we originally had it included with the renovation project, but decided to pull it out because the architect had said it was gonna be
They estimated the cost a lot more than that.
like
and-
double that.
And plus the design
Their
fees on
design
this.
fees were
Yeah.
astronomical.
They were a lot more than
Yeah.
what Tom offered us on this.
So what do you need, Mr. Mayor?
Well, no, the board just asked me to bring back an update. I would, this is a project that's potentially gonna be funded out of fund balance, and I would ask the board to, keep in mind that we do have the burn building project, that is coming up on slate, to be appropriated from fund balance. This would be the locker room project. It's on slate to be appropriated from fund balance. If the board decides to take any action in Nantahala, either way we go, there's another potentially significant fund balance appropriation. So I would like to, maybe as part of the budget process, if the board wants to look at each of these projects a little more in depth and prioritize, because I don't think it's good to hit all this in one lick to our fund balance in 1 year. I would like to see, if the board so desires, to these projects to be prioritized. It'll give us enough time to, once these priorities from the board are laid out, to work with our financial advisor to see what is the best path to take and what would be appropriate, so we don't get dinged on our audit or anything like that. Because one of the things that we signed off on the renovation project was we didn't anticipate, what was that wording, Lori?
I can't remember exactly, but we pretty much, our official statement said we didn't anticipate taking any large amounts of fund balance, over the next several years.
And I mean,
So-
that's relative to 30 million. I
Yeah.
mean, we can do a $1.2 million project, a $1.4 million project, and then a year or two later do a 700,000, 800,000. But just when you start putting all those projects in 1 year, that's, $4 or
The money
$5
that we're
million.
gonna
That's a
receive,
big
the
lick.
money that we're gonna receive.
That's another thing. We've got these this other round of COVID funding that we're still awaiting guidance, that's being passed, like I said earlier, from the federal government down through the state. We're largely awaiting guidance on that, and, it's my understanding a lot of it is to do with infrastructure. The schools will be getting funding as well, with some capital, earmarked in there. And also you've got, it's my understanding that the bond's being floated around down in the legislature again. Now, I don't know if that's gonna come through the budget process, but that is talk that is being had. And Macon County stands to get a significant amount of money should that go through. So there's a lot of things at play, but just always wanna be aware of, the potential impact it could have if we authorize this project, and get up to hitting the fund balance for $4 or $5 million in a year. I mean, that would be, I would not advise to do that. So again, if
When is the schedule to start the renovations? June, May? June 1?
June 1, when school's out.
Yep.
Yeah. June 1.
as soon as they, kids leave.
So if we can approve this and move ahead for bids, could we have that? Could that, if that contractor comes in, let's say he really gives us a good price, and, I don't know how you can give a good price for the price of material right now, but.
Most of this masonry, and it's not went up quite as
No,
bad
it's
as
not
wood.
bad. So they're gonna start June 1, could we be ready for this project to break ground June 1 if we go now there?
No, you don't
I
have
wouldn't
time to
think
bid it
so.
out.
Huh?
I wouldn't think so. You've got to,
We could be real close if we go 3 weeks,
I mean,
3
you
weeks,
gotta-
6 weeks, 7 weeks.
are we going to pre-qualify contractors in this one? You know, that takes extra time. You know, you've got to do the advertisement, so it'd be tight. I mean, you want to give them plenty of time to respond, but not
It'd
too
be
much
close,
time.
wouldn't it? June, July?
With, with good weather, it could probably be completed by the first of the year.
By the time to tie in that other
Yeah,
contract.
I understand that. But they're gonna be here till September of,
Yeah.
November of 22.
2022, yeah. It's an 18-month project, so.
Yep.
I think there's another, we talked about the other day. If we can get the bids out, you're gonna be competing for space on that campus. I'm gonna call it landing materials. And, if you don't occupy this space, it's gonna get occupied.
Yes, that was the proposed laydown area for these contractors.
But this building's gonna go at the back.
Yes, that was proposed, but we've got room in the back for them to do that, if this goes.
I think you should move on with the project as quick as you can, as long as there's money available and it's, good business, for the county. And how do we finance it? And I think we should move on with pursuing that and research the business part of it financially, and see if it's gonna be too much or too little.
Jeff, does that tie into the existing gym?
It
Or is there a
doesn't.
breezeway?
There's a little breezeway between them, coming out of each door out of the gym, down to each side of it. There's a covered sidewalk around, all the way around the building.
You can't see it,
I'll look
Young,
further
it
on
does
page
look like it, if you flip over there.
If you look at the floor plan, Josh,
You'll
right
see
here,
it
the little-
divide.
that's the side view. And if you look at the floor plan,
You'll see a separation,
yeah,
Yeah.
from the gym, what you said.
Your suggestion we work this in the budget process?
It's 6 one way, half dozen another. I was just saying that, as prioritization wise, is we've talked about, we're gonna have something going, and that we've discussed taking out of fund balance in Nantahala. We got the burn building that we've already, previously appropriated fund balance for. We have the armory renovations that we've discussed funding out of fund balance. And we also have the locker room project that we're discussing funding out of fund balance. So I'm gonna say that choosing moving forward with one of them is going to, for us to maintain a solid financial position, we're gonna have to prioritize some of those, and they're gonna have to get bumped down the road.
why do we wanna finance some of those projects?
That's
The
I'm
interest
just
rates
saying,
are low, we got a great bond rating.
I'm just saying, our debt capacity, I think, is roughly 13 million right now. That's another thing, that our debt capacity, with recently issuing these bonds it's not as great as it used to be. We can't, but it would be enough to accommodate a 1 million or two, but we're gonna have some county projects that arise that we're gonna need to consider as well. So I was just saying that in conjunction with all these projects I just named, we have previously discussed taking them all out of fund balance. And so
That's a great question.
we can go, certainly we pursue.
And the next round of money is gonna be big. It's gonna be really important to the schools especially, and what they can use it for, but we don't know.
See, there's a lot of uncertainty with it still. So I'm just, that's.
I know what the state's getting.
I've been around Lori too long, she's making me too cautious.
Jack, what's
You're
what's
tight,
the
Derek.
intention of this multipurpose room?
It could be for like a field house meetings, before games, after games, or we designed it too so the wrestling team could use it as well in the side.
So this is wrestling?
It could be. It's designed for the right size for that if they choose to use it.
I mean, I know right now they're at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, we heard that, and we heard about changing clothes on the buses for baseball games, yeah.
We can do better.
All right, somebody gonna make a motion or some thoughts, or?
I'm ready to see bids. Is that what we're asking for?
Yeah, I think we need to go ahead and move on.
I mean, let's see when they come in.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Shields to send it out for bids.
I'll second that.
Got a second by Commissioner Young. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you for all your work, Jack.
Thank you. That was unanimous, opposed. I think I got it.
Was that
5-0.
was that unanimous?
Yes, I think it was unanimous.
That's just to put it out to bid. That's
Put it
not
out to bid,
approving.
correct. Yes, sir. Thanks. Thank you,
Create
Derek.
new
Yes, sir.
little circle.
I know, I don't got enough going on, thank y'all.
Need something to do.
Good job, Mr. Chairman. We're rolling, baby.
All right, everybody need a break, or everybody ready to roll? Tommy wants us to move forward. Moving on to new business.
What you pushing?
Lease of space at the Business Development Center to the Macon County Board of Education.
I'm missing a soccer game. No, thanks, Mr. Chairman and fellow members of the commission. As you know, the STEM program for the high school or the school system rents one of our spaces in the Business Development Center. It's time to renew that lease, and they would also like to lease another 1,000-foot space adjacent. The STEM program gets a lot of good use out of that program. It's a good program. It's growing. Those smaller spaces in the BDC do not have as much demand as the larger spaces do. So I would recommend that we lease them. We also, I think Mr. Shields has an amendment for the date of the lease.
On the term subject, I'm going to say it's on page 21. The lease shall commence April 13, 2021, and shall continue for a period of 1 year. My recommendation would be for that to continue for, you can say 14 months or in the mid, or the end of June. Because you're ending, if this ends this time next year, you still got a couple of months or 6 weeks forward that those students will be in that facility.
Right.
And so I'd just like to cover the whole time, the whole school year time that they're going to be in there.
Okay, that sounds good to me. It's possible they could use it during the summer also, but that's okay. We can make those changes, I think.
Yeah, we talked earlier.
Okay.
So I think
Any questions, ready to go? Get a motion to approve?
You doing it, Gary?
Lease agreement? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, motion by Commissioner Shields,
Second.
second by Commissioner Higdon, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Tommy.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
Got another one, don't you?
Yep,
Awesome West.
yep.
What else?
I'll just keep on going. As you know, we've been working on the Macon County High-Speed Internet Expansion Project that we've come to you a couple of times, got your approval on the concept for starting out in South Macon. And we did a request for a proposal back in September of last year, which we had 2 responses to. Balsam West was the winner, I guess you would say. And their proposal actually included completing it's a 7-year project, basically, a timeline. But the initial phase 1 was completing the fiber backbone from Franklin town limits to Otto Community Center, which basically the one is completed at Eaton Bridge Road, but it would be 5.8 miles onto Otto. This would enable them to, working in conjunction with their partners, to expand fiber not only to Otto, but up into Scaly Mountain area. and open up those areas for broadband expansion, both residential and commercial wise. Excuse me, in addition, we'd also be able to light up Auto Fire Department, Auto Community Center, the old Scaly Mountain Community Center, and the Scaly Mountain Fire Department. And I guess there's community meetings there. Good part about that is that Balsam West would supply them with up to 1 gig of service for a free service for the initial term of the project, which would be 7 years. Balsam West indicates that over the time period as they expand from that initial backbone, we could probably expand to from 2,600 households on up to potentially 5,000. Broadband committees looked at this. I think you instructed Manager Rowland to negotiate on that, and that's what we've done with Balsam West for this agreement. Mr. Ridenour's looked it over, and I think we're in good shape of where our original intention was to start on the path to expanding broadband in the south part of the county. That can hopefully be a template for the rest of the county as we move forward.
I think one thing I've had some questions about, but I think I satisfied it through the arrow going up Scaly Mountain.
Right.
If you could share that a little bit, that we're doing
Okay.
an arrow.
Yeah, that path would be, and I've got Jason Maples from Balsam West here, who's much more technical on this than I am. Jason, do you want to address that?
Sure, and the question was about the aerial pathway from Auto.
Okay, you want to come up?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Shields, for your question. So the partnership we envision is with Haywood EMC. They have an aerial pole pathway and existing fiber that is stranded assets that essentially run from Auto to Scaly Mountain. With our agreement with Haywood EMC, we would swap fiber assets so that we can make that contiguous link between Scaly Mountain all the way back to the city of Franklin available, and that backbone infrastructure then becomes active and in place, along with Little T Broadband, the community centers partnering as network infrastructure points, so those would become what they call point of presence. So we can put electronics to be able to activate the fiber, to turn up customers, to activate a mixed infrastructure of both fiber and wireless to continue to expand broadband expansion. I'd also like to point out that we've recently invested in the CBRS spectrum, which allows us essentially spectrum to expand broadband capabilities along a wireless infrastructure. We're updating, investing, and upgrading our entire wireless infrastructure that's been available in Macon County and the Franklin area. So all this in conjunction will allow us to continue to deliver broadband speeds at the federally required minimum and beyond, as well as fiber infrastructure to continue to leverage both for economic development, for existing businesses and residents in that area. Does that?
You can supply the small towers.
Yes, sir.
That's needed within us too.
Yes, sir. This,
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
That'll be a big asset for this.
Yes, sir,
all
very
this-
much.
This total project and other project that we're going to hopefully venture into.
Yes, sir. And we're very grateful to work and partner with the county. Tommy's been a great help in helping develop this project as we've gone from the RFP process into the actual, what are we going to deliver, how are we going to deliver it, and then expanding on that infrastructure. So that we
With all the
continue.
talk about broadband and the need for broadband, and COVID has certainly proven that.
Yes, sir.
You know, in the schools. But when it comes right down to it, without partners like Balsam West, we're not gonna get anything. We know that. I mean, the lobby is too strong in Raleigh and Washington. So we appreciate Balsam West to be willing to step up and help what started out as sort of a community project. And the work of those folks down there, they've turned it into something that Balsam West can pick up on, and hopefully y'all will get some money out of this round the round that's coming on the infrastructure bill?
We've made a couple efforts at it.
Good.
As
I
you
hope-
may or may not be aware, the last round was the COVID funding, in which the legislature, the way they wrote the bill, precluded wireless as an option. We submitted a county-wide bid, which would have covered up to 8,000 both underserved and unserved residents in Macon County. Because of the nature of the legislature, how they do the scoring, we're hoping this new round and new legislation will go back in and reallocate those funds to those projects. But, hope is not a strategy. So we're trying to work toward real-world bootstrap solutions that we
I
can
mean,
get.
this man has worked tirelessly for months and years and hours, and all of us, we've talked about this for years.
Yes, sir.
And we know the only way we're going to get is working with somebody that cares about where we live at. And
thank you.
That's the
Yes,
bottom
sir.
line.
And I think if I get you out, if I get you out of territory, just stop, just don't say it. But I think with Mr. Higdon and his interest in Nantahala and bringing broadband to them, I believe you made some journeys there too, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, with Warren Cabe and the county and the EMS, we are looking at existing infrastructure that we can both leverage to deliver broadband, as well as providing the county an additional asset to be able to leverage for broadband as well, for connectivity as it relates to EMS, or in the Nantahala, we already have fiber at the schools, so being able to have tie points to be able to build off additional wireless infrastructure. One of the assets that we have available to us that I failed to mention at the beginning, I wanted to tell you that we have a new CEO, Ryan Sherby, who you may or may not be aware of. Ryan's with the Southwest Commission. He's worked with some of you on a lot of projects. He's very dedicated to this. We're working aggressively towards it. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of investment with it, a lot of design and engineering component pieces of it. So to answer your question is, yes, we have looked at it, and we are getting closer and closer to establishing how we go to market. We work with individual concerned citizens in the Nantahala area that call me regularly to offer assistance with that piece. So, we're here to help. Thank you for your
Well,
partnership.
your name is very popular over there.
I'm afraid of that statement, yes.
It's a good thing.
Keep your mask on. When you
Good point. No, I just
When you
realized-
visit over there.
And
Appreciate it.
Jason's done a tremendous job, and as he says, the new leadership at Balsam West, I think, they've made a commitment to.
So Shirley got off of his year-long task on a boat, decided to come home?
He did. In fact, I think he's regretting that now because as popular as I seem to be, he is very popular with me. I talk to him on a regular basis.
I'm glad Ryan's out.
I am too.
And he's a fantastic asset for the organization, and between our owners and our board and having Ryan there with his background and experience, our engineering team that we brought on some new assets. I'm a new face, relatively speaking, to Balsam West. We're making a lot of, the company, our owners are making a great deal of investment in our backyard.
Of course, the big question is going to be if this should be approved is, going to start tomorrow? What's the schedule?
We're going to start as soon as possible. Very much like your construction challenges you have, if you're ever going to Lowe's and trying to buy an appliance that they don't have in stock, fiber lead times are very long. With a lot of federal investments, state investments, manufacturers getting on their schedule, it's hard to commit to that, but we want to move as quickly as possible. So once we have established a go-forward date, we'll be able to kind of lay out a plan for you in more detail.
So the great grants are still players with your company?
Yes, sir, very much so. We continue to desire to leverage every grant opportunity, whether they be an art grant, a federal grant, a state grant, or additional grants that you're looking at coverage. We would like to entertain all of them as well to help proliferate.
Balsam West works really close with Region 82 to identify those opportunities.
That's correct.
Public
Thank you, sir.
education will appreciate anything you do for them, the nooks and crannies.
Yes, sir, I can quite well imagine. Anything I can do.
Can we get a motion to approve the grant agreement?
Make a motion to approve the grant agreement
Second.
as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Shields, second by Commissioner Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
job.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right, Warren, thank you for your patience. Emergency Services Director Warren Cave, approval of bid award for prime movers. Know you enjoy hanging out with us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I sure do. Before I get started, very briefly, I wanted to remind the board, just kind of a refresher on how emergency management is funded in North Carolina. Obviously, we get local funds from you all, but we also get some funds from the state of North Carolina that are funded to us from them, and then those funds come from the federal government. So there's a couple different pots of monies occasionally you hear me talk about. You may hear me talk about EMPG monies or Homeland Security monies or mitigation monies. That's kind of the three most popular ones you probably hear. The EMPG monies or emergency management program or performance grants that we get are based on obligations we do annually. There's certain things we have to do and perform annually. And then we're funded based on our staffing numbers or staffing positions. It's basically our operational costs. Then you have Homeland Security monies, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And prior to 2001, there would be a set amount of money in North Carolina, and every county would get a share of that money. It might be $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. And what the North Carolina figured out, and this is actually something that North Carolina did really well, they figured out most counties couldn't do much with that, and you had this hodgepodge of equipment all across the state of North Carolina. So shortly after 2001, they divided the emergency management regions up into areas, and we're actually in Region 9, which is everything from Buncombe West. And instead of every county getting a little share of money every year, they typically congregate those pots of money, and you may get a larger chunk of money that may go to one or two counties in the region. And then that's for more specific purposes. For instance, your resources are more standardized of what you purchase across the state of North Carolina. A lot of times, hurricane season, we'll get messages from the coast, and they'll say, well, can we use your message board signs, which were funded by one of the programs we'll talk about. And we'll offer those to them, and they know that when we offer them a message board, they know what we're offering. We're going to talk about prime movers. If they talk about prime movers, they know that they don't have to ask me, is it a Toyota or a Freightliner? They know what it is when I send them something to move something. So there's a reason for that standardization. And then typically what will happen also to keep every county in a region or a couple counties from having to go through the bid process, they will take a host county, usually a larger county or a county that's got a pretty robust financial system, and the money will come to them. They will host the grant, and then you may take the resource, you may purchase one or two or three things, and those may be assigned to other counties around you. So that's kind of the background on what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. So basically, back in August, Macon County was awarded $140,000 to purchase two prime movers. Prime mover is the verbiage from the federal authorized equipment list for what you and I would commonly know as a one-ton truck with a flatbed. But that's the federal verbiage that has to be in the requirements.
It's called what, prime?
Prime mover. That's an official federal term. Those are designed to move trailers, to haul supplies, for various things. And we're one of the last counties in the region to get one of these, probably because sometime around 2004-ish, we realized that we needed one, and we would take an old ambulance chassis, we put a flatbed on it. And we've had one of our own since then, but it's always been repurposed from something else. So this is actually, we're one of the last counties in the region to get one of these, us and Clay County, which is our partner county this year. So they have offered us $140,000 to purchase two of these prime movers. We did go through the formal bid process. We have to go through the formal bid process and meet all specifications for the grant and for the federal standards. And tonight, I'm asking for your permission to award the bid, and the bid was for the truck and the bed, the main part of the purchase, and then there was two alternates. One of the alternates was for communications equipment. One of the other alternates was for the emergency lighting and other equipment on the vehicles. We're actually going to use ours for a couple of different purposes. We're going to use it for our normal, we have a hazmat trailer, we have a mass casualty trailer, we have a 100 kW generator, we have two light towers, a signboard, two command posts between the sheriff's office and health department we move. we use ours for that. We've hauled palletized water on it before in Peach Creek and the fires. We've hauled water. We use it for some benign stuff like hauling the lawnmower to Cali Bald and Line Springs to mow around those towers. But we're also going to use it as, we're going to put a mobile repeater in ours to be a mobile communications site if we have something go on somewhere. And we're going to use it for a backup for our fire services crew. If their truck's in the shop, they've got another vehicle to drive. So that's actually what we're going to use ours for. But with that being said, we actually received 3 bids. Nobody bid the main bid and both alternates together. So there's 3 different companies that I'm going to name here in just a second. We found out that this particular vehicle, when you go to buy a 1-ton truck, which ours has a 19,500 GVW, so that puts you up into the larger frame chassis, it's about a 16-week wait time on them right now if you can even get a dealer to even tell you that they can get you one. So we didn't have a flood of people that decided they wanted to offer us these. So with that being said, what I would like to ask permission for tonight is to award the bid to the 3 following vendors for the truck and chassis, which is there 2, one for us and one for Clay County, to Jackie Jones Chrysler Dodge in the amount of $117,891.10, to award the warning package, emergency lighting package, to West Chatham Warning Devices for $6,099.80, and the communications equipment to Western Carolina Communication Systems for $9,827.06, for a grand total of $133,817.96 for 2 of those vehicles with the equipment, which is still under our budget of $140,000, and there's no match to that. That's all money that's passed through from them. We have it set up, the way we do that is we budget our money in a capital fund. We have another account that we budget the one for Clay County, so it doesn't show up under our capital assets, and when it comes, it'll be titled to Clay County, and we'll just transfer it over to them. Ours is monitored and kept on our inventory. North Carolina also comes and inventories it on a regular basis to make sure we still have it, so there's a inventory responsibility there to keep track of those, and North Carolina assists us in doing that. So we are still under budget, and that works out to about $66,900 a piece for those 2 vehicles. Clay County's was actually, believe it or not, if you look at our numbers, they were $200 higher than ours. We got a red one, and they wanted silver to match their fleet vehicle, and silver was $200 higher for some reason.
Can we get a motion for the approval of the 3 bids for the prime movers?
Make a motion, Bill.
Got a motion by Commissioner Young, second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Warren. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, release the Morris Broadband LLC performance bond. Mr. Ridenhour?
Yes, it sounds like we had an old performance bond that was no longer valid, and they've requested that it be returned to them. I've been working with Lori on that, and I think we're good to pass that. The bond is no longer applicable due to state statute.
Can we get a motion to release the performance
So
bond?
moved, Mr.
Motion
Chairman.
by Commissioner Higdon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Young. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect that was 4-0, Mr. Decker. We got 1 absent. All right, Town Square, Commissioner Higdon.
Real quick, been on the board about 8 years, I guess, something like that, and I've kind of noticed there's never really been, in my opinion, a good working relationship between the town board and the Macon County Board, but we've got a town square down there. The county owns property, and the town, we lease it to the town. They just put a new roof on the gazebo, but if you visit that thing, being an ex-safety officer for a large hospital, there's some safety issues with that property, and I don't know where the liability falls, with the lessee or the leaser or whatever, but there's some, I was down with my granddaughter the other day, and we were playing out there, and she almost sat down on a 16 penny nails, about 3/4 high, that's driven into the concrete around the lip of that stage. And I got to looking, and there's 6 or 8 of them around through there. Certainly a safety hazard. The electrical boxes are falling off the wall. The shrubbery is terrible. The paint is terrible on the benches, the building. I mean, it's pigsty. And yeah, it's the town. We've leased it to the town, but what the town board does and what the county board does, I think, is to we both represent taxpayers and the public that comes and uses our facilities. And just as I would like to take that project on. If I'm on the sewer, I'm the liaison to the Sewer and Water Committee, and I don't even know what that is. Never had a meeting, nobody's ever called me and told me what it is. So I'd like to take this little project on and just maybe with the town. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I'm just gonna say I'm in favor of it. I agree with you, and I appreciate you willing to grab that bull by the horns and do it. And I'm just trying to jump ahead of things. I think it'd be good if we get some numbers pretty quickly, so we might be able to work it into the budget for this year if we're gonna do some of the
I think it'd
repairs
be
and all
minimal,
that.
but I'd like to, I don't want to, I'm not a Gestapo, so I can't make decisions on what needs to be done, but I talked with Summer Woodard, and I said, Summer, how about you and I taking this on as a kind of a project, and maybe Josh, I'd like to get some of the youth in the county involved in this thing. I mean, it's pigsty. If you go down and look at it, it's pathetic.
You'll be working with somebody besides Summer. You'll be working with somebody besides Summer.
Well, I mean, somebody from the town, David Culpepper, one of the board members or something, or Wynn, or Corey, or Nat Moore. But I'd just like for this
What does
board to give me
Louise
the
say?
authority to maybe mention or suggest 6 or 8 committee members to find the highest and best use of the town square property. And it's not a binding thing, it's just,
It needs some help, I agree.
it's just a PR type thing between the two boards, and to see if we can't accent that. That's a valuable piece of property, and it's terrible, it's awful.
We do have a lease, we'll
With
look
the
at
town.
it. Yep.
You have to look at that lease for the town, too. They got it leased.
Yeah, I know.
They might be obligated to do it.
All right, I'll bring back a list next month,
We'll look at that lease.
talk to some of these people. But I'd like to, I tell you what, then you go down and look at the safety hazards. We don't need safety hazards hanging out there. I don't care who's liable, who's liable for it. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Good,
Chairman.
good. No, thank you.
So,
Oh, can I clarify one thing? My vote on the co-op property.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to the Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, but I've been reading this deed ever since we've been talking about this for years. And it clearly states in that deed, back in 1971, Macon County Board of Commissioners gave this property to the Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association with the stipulation that if that property was ever sold, that the Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association would receive the first $15,000 in proceeds. The balance would go to the Macon County Board of Commissioners. And I just don't know how we can usurp that by coming up with a number and paying a full amount for this thing when we disregarded that.
I think we explained that. The co-op, Paul, paid for all the improvements there. They put the building in, the building that was
You gotta read the
built.
deed, though. You gotta read the deed.
Yeah, but they paid for the improvements that's on the.
Yeah, it says that in the deed, but there's a formula for dispersing.
Nobody else could figure it out either. Bud Seiler wrote that. It's been going on for 20 years or longer. We thought we had it
Been going on
sold 3
since
times.
1971.
Yeah.
That's 50 years.
But I mean, that's been since you come to this board, since I was aware of
And
it.
that's the reason I couldn't support it. I think until that's clarified and cleared up in my mind, how we can give them 67,000 or whatever the number was.
87.5.
87.5 versus $15,000 of taxpayers' money, I couldn't support it. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
going back to Paul's request about the area down here, should we look at some kind of legal sign or something that puts up a warning thing if it's gonna be another month before you're talking about those nails and things like that? Should there be some kind of boundary put up, or?
And we'll have to, of course, let the attorney look at the deed, but I believe the deed places the liability at the town. I think, if we currently have no liability under the lease, does doing stuff, does that start bringing liability on us if we go in there and start putting signs up and we currently have no liability under the lease agreement? That would be something we have to look at, right?
Well, you and I, Nathaniel Moore, engineer from Franklin, meet down one
whoever
day.
to-
And we can correct those deficiencies like that.
You need to let that attorney review the lease. The lease is very specific.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the additions of budget amendments number 234 and 235?
So moved, Mr.
Got a
Chairman.
motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor? Aye. Appointments, Town of Franklin representative on the EDC Commission, one seat. Somebody help me out with the name.
Mike
down.
Lewis.
Mr. Mike Lewis, thank you.
And you got Highlands too, we're doing both the same day. You wanna do
It's
them
different
individually?
boards, yeah.
Motion to approve Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis to
the
Economic
EDC.
Commission. Motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Young, all in favor?
Aye.
This is for the Highlands Tourism and Development Commission, TDC. I have Mr. Bill Bubenik has agreed since we received the resignation from Jerry Moore. Bill owns some property and some rentals on Main Street and in the town proper. So I would recommend Mr. Bubenik.
So moved, Mr.
Got a
Chairman.
motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Shields, all in favor?
Aye.
Mike, will you please, or Derek, somebody please let Kay, the Highlands Chamber Director, know that, please, Bill Bubenik. I've got his information here, I'll pass down.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we get a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of, please remind me, property acquisition, potential property acquisition.
Preserve attorney-client privilege.
Do we expect any action following?
Yes, we're gonna have to take action.
We're gonna have to take action following, okay. Where's Mr. Coggin? I haven't been here hardly any meetings ever, you hadn't been here.
He went to the town meeting.
He got the
No, he didn't.
Did not?
Much more news going on there than there are here.
He wasn't there.
I'll make a motion, move in closed session.
Got a motion by Commissioner Young to go into closed seconded by Commissioner Higdon, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Brittany?
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Call a meeting back to order. Guess the purpose of us coming back to order was the potential purchase of real property. As the public already knows, we've been considering a parcel in the Nantahala community that we've been doing some due diligence on. And I think it's time we're finally going to come make a decision on that property. Can you give us the address?
Yes, sir. For the record, Mr. Chairman, that is at 36 White Oak Lane. The parcel ID is 6526271654. The seller of that piece of property is Brian Wendell Bateman and wife Kimberly Wishon Bateman.
Can you remind us of the values of the property? I think we did pay to have that.
159.8.
How much property is it?
1.29 acres.
That was the purchase price, 159.8.
159.8.
What was our appraisal?
That was, appraisal was 158.9.
Okay.
The offer, that is again, the 159.8 is what is on the current signed offer to purchase and contract that we're currently in the due diligence phase on.
Okay. Action board.
Mr. Chairman, motions in order.
Sure.
We've been talking about library community building in Nantahala. I was on the library board for a couple of years, liaison from the commissioners to the library board. I'm no longer since last December. We went to a lot of meetings. We were trying to find a place. The current library is dilapidated. It's double-wide trailer and it's functionally obsolete. Then a lot of meetings, and I told them over there that whatever solution that we came up with would not be the perfect solution because we were part of the government, and everybody wouldn't be happy. And we've gone through a due diligence period, had a lot of good discussions, back room back here, and up to last month, we were pretty much leaning toward this might be a good idea to purchase this Bateman property. The Batemans have been very patient, very willing to work with us on this. We've evaluated the existing septic system. The health department did that for us. We had the property line surveyed. We drilled a well as part of our due diligence period, got a good well. And we're down now to now there's some opposition tonight that the library doesn't want to move. Well, you know, I promised a lot of people in Nantahala that I would push to have the county buy this or fund this property for the residents of Nantahala for a library community building. And there's some talk, well, if we buy it, they're not going to use it for a library. That's beyond me. I can't force the library to move up there. Our agreement with Fontana Regional Library is to provide them a structure. They have a structure now, if that's what they want to use. But based on a couple of years' work on this and my commitment to the residents of Nantahala, which I represent there in my District 3, I make a motion that we purchase the property as mentioned on 36 White Oak Lane for the total value or total selling price of $159,800 to be appropriated from fund balance. And that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Young. Discussion.
Of course, Mr. Chairman, I got to speak in opposition to the purchase. We can't find a purpose for the building. The library, the reason that you heard Mr. Heaton talk about the library, well, the library was not part of the conversation until the 1st of January. So, and they hadn't invested this building until the 1st of April. So the library is so important to that community. It is the center of that community. And you hear the discussions tonight from the member of the library board and the community leaders stating that the library, they could not put the library 4 miles away from the school. We're talking about the estimated cost of $300,000 just to get the fiber there. A total output, if including all that, is close to $700,000 for this building. And what are we going to do with it? The community building meets 5 times a year. So at other times, we're going to have to, this building, what the county buys it, we have to keep it up, fix it up, keep it. The building is just a block building, has no R factor. The heating system's not adequate. It just furnishes half the building. There's a whole list of things. And we just can't find a purpose for the building. The library, we're gonna have to do something to benefit the library, and I think we're all agreeing the library needs to be up there close to the school so the kids can, the students of Nantahala School can have access to the library, because they use it every day. And so regardless of how this vote comes out, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna have to look at furnishing them a decent building. Like Paul said, the other building is, they're in an old, 22-year-old Head Start double wide. And so we can do better for the folks in Nantahala, and the goal has always been to provide them with something, but the library is so important to this community. But a community building, and Mr. Tass can tell you that, they meet approximately 5 times a year, and now that's going to leave a lot of vacant time for that building, Mr. Chairman. We don't have no use for them. We're going to spend $750,000 on it. So I can't see the purpose in that, or how it's going to serve that community in the future. The building's been sitting empty for a number of years. There's certainly no rush for nobody to purchase this property. So with that, Mr. Chairman, is my opposition to this purchase.
Okay.
I'd like to clarify my support for the new Bateman property as presented by the library board. It's a community/library center. And on some of the subtitles there were reunions, birthday parties. It's open to the public. And I just don't feel like we need to bring the public onto our public school property with our children. I know Nantahala is a special place, it's a special community, very tight-knit, and I love Nantahala. But speaking straight from the heart, in good conscience, I just cannot provide a public library, a public community building on campus with the school. And as Paul said, it's not a perfect solution, and the numbers you just mentioned are intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. So, but again, my support is to move the community center slash library, away from the students, and to keep the school, and keep our public community building library on an independent piece of property.
I stated earlier tonight, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify that, the library has been on the school property for almost 25 years, never a problem. And it is used for both, and but it is a center of the community, and the school will continue to be the center of that community, regardless of if we buy another building or not. I bet you that the meeting will still be held at the school. So, with that, I just want to clarify that the library's been there a long time.
Commissioner Shields, any comments?
I just want to say we're using the word community center and the library in one building, but I think the library has told us they're not going to occupy that building. So really, the Bateman property would only be for a community center, not a library. I believe that's
right.
Gist of it. And I guess my problem with it, I haven't seen what makes up the community club. What do we offer? I mean, what makes this a place attractive enough for people to come there and do that? I don't know. I do know what a library is. I do not know just what a community club is and what it accommodates. So I'd feel more comfortable knowing what that picture is of a community club. If the library was in agreement to be there, I have no problem, I vote. I definitely vote for it. But I do not know what the community club is going to be. And that's the reason I vote against it, is because I don't know what it would accommodate. And somebody can share that with me and say, this is what the community club is going to look like when they finish it, then I may change my mind.
All right, as with most things, it seems like I'm the man in the middle here again, my right and my left. So, my thought on it is, we've obviously been discussing this for a long time, and on the right side of me, I completely understand and respect, and I get it. I get where y'all are coming from. I hear you loud and clear. And then on the other side of me, I completely appreciate and respect that the elected official from that district has a different feeling about it. And what pushed me over the edge, I mean, I came in tonight knowing how I was gonna vote, what pushed me over the edge on how I wanted to support the purchase of the Bateman property was the email from our school board representative. So we had 2 elected officials from that district in support of that property and that purchase. But then we get into our closed session and I hear that, well, maybe that's not how Ms. Bateman feels. Well, I haven't heard that from her. I haven't seen it from her. All what I have is that long email that really stuck out in my mind that our school board representative over there didn't want the community building with library at the school. So with that, I'm going to decide with the purchase of the Bateman property, just because, again, that's, in my opinion, I'm just following the lead of the 2 officials that represent that district in our county. So anyway, there I go.
Call the question.
All right, all in favor of the purchase, continuing on with the purchase, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, signify by saying aye.
No.
All right.
Another,
There you go.
another National Guard armory down the
All
tube.
right, all right.
Put them in the co-op. Put them in the
Can I get
co-op.
we are,
80,000, I'll buy it tomorrow.
yes, we'll be, we're gonna adjourn this one, but we'll recess our next meeting.
Would somebody,
We have a regular meeting on the 10th, or is it 10th?
May 11th.
We'll recess that one for the May,
Recess
but
to
this one we're
25th.
adjourning.
Yeah.
So can I get a, sorry, Commissioner
I
Shields.
just want to say, the library is still a need. Would it
Agreed.
be okay for some of us to go investigate this piece of property?
For the library?
I'm fine with it. Just,
Yeah.
It's
I
still a
think-
need.
He's the liaison.
We're gonna have to have a library, we're gonna have to have a library now in Highlands, so that building before it falls, we need to go ahead.
Okay,
and
no,
try to
I'm
make
fine.
provisions. Okay.
You got one in school?
Good. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you, guys.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Young, second by
Aye.
Commissioner Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a safe